Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let us begin tonight's activity. Mr. and Mrs. McGeorge, faculty, staff, parents, loved ones, and of course, the Corps of Cadets. I am delighted to welcome all of you to the 84th Annual W. Wallace Fry Public Speaking Contest, which marks the official beginning of the 127th commencement exercises of Missouri Military Academy. It seems only fitting that public speaking be the opening of this wonderful commencement weekend. Public speaking, oratory, the art of rhetoric is a key skill that we at MMA wish to impart to our cadets. Along with, one could argue, contemplation and philosophy, rhetoric is the way that we arrive at truth and knowledge, and it is the vehicle that informs the world of just and virtuous causes. This evening, 3 middle school cadets will compete for the Joy McGeorge Middle School Oratory Award, and 4 high school cadets will vie for the Wallace Fry Public Speaking Award and the Churchill Memorial Plaque. In 1932, the late Judge Fry of the MMA class of 1903 inaugurated his award to be presented each year to that cadet at Missouri Military Academy whose speech is judged to be the best on the basis of delivery, content, and rhetorical skill. An additional incentive was added to the contest in 1970 when Westminster College, located in Fulton, Missouri, provided the Sir Winston Churchill Memorial Award. The Churchill Award goes to the cadet whose well-delivered message espouses a just cause. The speeches tonight represent the work of the entire MMA Cadet Corps. Competition began months ago as each cadet researched and wrote a paper on a vital issue of today for their English class. Each student then presented his speech in preliminary competition. Teachers selected semifinalists from each class who were then judged by an MMA panel in May. That competition resulted in the selection of the finalists that you see here tonight. Let us all give them a round of applause for making it here. We are pleased to have 3 distinguished gentlemen to be our judges this evening. They have all been connected in one way or another with this school, and I can tell you from personal experience they are very committed to the education of today's youth. We first have Mr. Lou Leonati, who is from Leonati and Baker PC, a lawyer here in the city of Mexico. Dr. Kurt Jefferson, Assistant Dean for Global Initiatives, Professor of Transnational and International Studies, and Director of the Churchill Institute for Global Engagement at Westminster College. Dr. Jefferson. And lastly, Mr. Patrick Morgan, General Counsel for the State of Missouri, the Missouri State Treasurer's Office. Mr. Morgan. The order of the speakers will be based, as indicated on your program, with Mr. Modise beginning, and they will speak without introduction. After the final speaker, while the judges deliberate, the Missouri Military Academy Big Band, under the direction of Warrant Officer Rob McGrath, will provide some wonderful music. By the way, wonderful job so far this evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And without further ado, Mr. Modise.
Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Modise and the title of my speech is Do You Care? When you hear of a homeless person, what do you think of? A person who is sleeping on the street, having a cardboard box, desperately saying that they need money, food, or anything else to help out. 8% of America is homeless. but 17% of that are veterans. There are a few reasons why veterans are homeless, but more so than not, veterans are homeless because some of them suffer from disorders when coming from serving. Most people who are homeless do not choose to be homeless, but there are some that do. Around 2005, abuse in the house of a family was one of the primary reasons why people were homeless. To them, that was the only way to get away from the abuse, and it was the safest way. 1/3 of homeless people are children. Can you believe children like me around my age are out there on the streets, having no home to sleep in or no family to care for them? How much of those children do you think lose hope and fall into the wrong path? From what I just said, I'm definitely not saying that homeless people are homeless because they didn't do anything wrong. Some homeless people are homeless because they fall into the wrong path, like being addicted to drugs. Instead of paying for rent in their house, paying for drugs to only temporarily give you pleasure, and then dragging them back for more. I watched a couple of videos about ex-homeless people, and the whole time I was hearing that they would never be in that part of life again. They admitted that they are grateful for the chance that they have gotten, and now they're helping people out that are in the same position as them. Whenever I see a homeless person on the street, it gives me discomfort because I know that they're just human beings just like us. And then most likely they weren't homeless and didn't think they were going to be homeless. And I know that it could happen to me or anyone else. And if it did, I know I would want people to give me a chance and not look at me less than a human being. So do you care? Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Wen, and today the topic of my speech is environmentalism. Environment is what surrounds us. It is the source of our life. Our life is dependent to the environment. It directs our life and determines our proper growth and development. Good or bad quality of social life depends on the quality of nature. The need of human beings for food, water, shelter, and the cycle that exists between environment and the lives of human beings. Human society is playing a vital role in corrupting the natural environment, which in turn negatively affects the lives on this planet. All the human beings in this modern world directly impacts the whole ecosystem. Human actions have brought a big change in this world, which resulted in many environmental problems, including increase on demand of technology and industries in the modern time, which impacts the nature. The increasing invention of new technologies has changed the interaction of people with the environment, which permits more population to grow. Today's modern technology have immense power, which has changed or caused the whole environment in an unimagined way. The increase in technology and human behavior are correspondingly very serious. Such amazing technologies have become the reason of economic growth in the 21st century. However, it has dramatically affected the natural resources. We humans have created the most extraordinary things such as cars, trains, planes, and ships that have reached the moon, and we discovered atoms that split. But at the same time, those atoms were used as nuclear warfare and guns. Some of the environmental problems that we are now facing is a rapid growth, world population, natural resources, diminishing forests and wetlands, and erosion of soil and reefs. And some other issues are loss of biodiversity, rapid extinction of some important animal species. Species that have been longer than us are becoming extinct because of us. We humans have increased the rate of animals becoming extinct by a thousand times the normal rate. Humans don't know what we had until it's gone, thrown away or broken away. Like, for example, you probably know what the Amazon desert is. Believe it or not, it once was the Amazon rainforest. There are billions of trees, all gorgeous, and humans never think of this, but trees help us breathe, store water, medicine, food, and which is why I'm sorry that we burn them down for money. Even though science and technology have radically altered the terms of adaptation to the nature, we still need to adapt to the environment. It's like a farmer. A farmer doesn't look at the dead branches of a tree. He looks at the root. We are the root of this generation and foundation to save this planet. We humans must realize that we aren't a part of nature. We are part of nature. We humans must not forget that human beings are also animals that share living space with other animal species. If we betray nature, nature betrays us. And if we save nature, nature saves us. This world will come to an end. And the only way to start a new beginning is within you. Thank you for listening to my speech.
I, Nehemiah Simmons, solemnly swear to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. The Constitution is the very foundation of the United States government, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thousands of men and women, maybe some of you, have or will uphold the right hand and swear to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. However, the significance of that oath is only as relevant as the document you are swearing to defend. The Constitution has lost its importance today. Its purpose has been lost, ignored, as well as unenforced. For instance, the first 10 amendments, collectively known as the Bill of Rights, are routinely ignored by our government officials. For example, the 10th Amendment states, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people." This clearly means that the federal government has absolutely no constitutional authority to involve themselves in anything that the Constitution does not give them the power to do. The 13 original states want to ensure their sovereignty from a strong, centralized federal government. However, the 10th Amendment gave them that assurance. In spite of this, our government officials constantly pass laws and regulations that they clearly have no constitutional authority to do. For example, public education, environment protection, healthcare, etc. The Constitution has also been unenforced because of the ignorance of the people. We are not a democracy. We are a representative republic. It is the responsibility of the people to ensure that their elected representatives do in fact uphold and defend our Constitution. The irrelevance of the Constitution is not only because the higher officials ignore it, it is because our heart's desire seems to play video games with our friends and complain about why the government is so dysfunctional. But instead, with the prudent use of our individual vote, we ourselves can ensure that we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, recent history has proven this not to be the case. During a long hot summer in a small room in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, our founding fathers disputed, debated, and reasoned amongst themselves to establish a form of government that has never before existed in the history of mankind. And then they produced a document to ensure whose purpose was clearly stated in its preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Unfortunately, it is my fear that this historic document is becoming more and more irrelevant due to the ignorance of the people and lack of enforcement.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Francisco Fletes, and I will talk to you today about adolescent depression. But before I begin my speech, I want you to picture something for me. Imagine you're standing in a room full of people, surrounded by tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of them. But the funny thing is, not one of them seems to notice you. Now you're waving your arms, you're screaming out, you are begging to be noticed. No one even bats an eye. Now it's funny to think this might even happen, right? Maybe even preposterous. In reality, this is how many adolescents suffering from depression really feel. They feel ignored, like no one cares about them. This is why this is an ever-growing problem which is silently attacking our society. So my goal for this speech today is to not only educate you guys about the basics of adolescent depression, but teach you how to prevent it and how to treat it when you do come across it. 157,000. That's the number of people ages 10 to 24 that were treated for self-inflicted injuries this past year in the United States. Taking in mind, there might be more thousands that were not even treated for it. Someone has to start doing something for it. I have 3 main points which I will touch during this speech. First one, you need to be able to differentiate depression from normal teenage feelings. This is why many teenagers get dismissed and parents think they're just being dramatic. They say, oh, it's normal, it's the age, but it's not. There's many simple symptoms which anybody can identify. Some of these include a loss in appetite, tiredness to do even the simplest of tasks, such as getting up from bed or playing their favorite video game. Also, an abrupt change in school performance, their grades dropping rapidly from one month to another, or angry bursts that were not characteristic of that teenager before. Also, the most important thing you need to understand is that depression is not a state of mind. It's not a blue mood you can snap out of. It's a medical condition and should be treated as such. You should receive medication for it, just like you would for any other disease, like fever, the flu, or any other medical conditions. Also, you need to know this is an ever-growing issue that is reaching epidemic proportions. What's an epidemic, you might ask? In the dictionary, it's defined as a sudden, widespread occurrence of a particular undesirable phenomenon. Suicide takes the lives of 41,000 teenagers every single year in the US. If you ask me, that ties in perfectly to the definition of an epidemic. Also, it's been growing again because our nature as humans is when we think we have solved the problem, we ignore it. This is why it's been growing silently. And just as Sally Curtin, a statistician from the CDC said, quote, "It had been decreasing almost steadily since 1986. And then what happened is there was a quick turnaround, which means we need to take action again." There are some other facts that only support this claim. These facts are provided by the Jason Foundation, which was founded to help and prevent depression and suicide in young adults. One of the most shocking facts that I discovered is as follows. More teenagers and young adults die every year from suicide than from cancer, heart disease, AIDS, birth defects, stroke, pneumonia, and chronic lung disease combined. In the US, there's an average of 5,400 attempts of suicide by young people ages grades 7 to 12. And like I said before, the most important thing to understand, this is an illness, not a state of mind. Depression is not a mood you can snap out of. It's not a bad day, a bad week, or a bad month. Depression is a persistent feeling of sadness and worthlessness. It's a lack of desire to engage in former pleasurable activities. It's a complex mind and body illness and should be treated as such, with medication and/or therapy. In more scientific terms, depression can be triggered by a lack of neurotransmitters in your brain. More simple terms, chemical reactions in your brain. This is why you take medications such as antidepressants. Antidepressants are substances used in the treatment of mood disorders. They are the most effective treatment when you take medication. Many cases, teenagers only need someone to talk to, someone to understand their problems and how they feel. So therapy, sometimes the only thing needed. And now I'll talk about you briefly about my encounters with adolescent depression. I have a friend who studied abroad, and for the better part of 2 years, he's been battling with depression and suicidal thoughts. And to be honest, it's hard for me to be at a distance and not be able to do anything. And you see him talking about his problems, and people laugh at him. They treat him as a joke just because he decides to cut himself as an escape from the horrors. It's this abomination called depression. People don't care. They think it's just teenagers being dramatic, and that really hurts. And I believe it's something that needs to change. And if you experience it personally, you will know too. So if I was to give any advice to parents, it's let your children make their own decisions. Don't carve out their path for them. Let them make mistakes and learn on their own. Once you make decisions for them, they're not confident in themselves. They forget how to do things by their own. And the lack of self-confidence is a big factor in depression. There's a problem that needs to stop, and it won't stop with one or two persons. It will stop with each and every single one of you. Friend, brother, teacher, family member. If you see someone struggling, if you see them sad all of a sudden, don't hesitate to approach them. Seek out help for them. Don't be selfish. Help other people. This problem will not go out by themselves or by our collective efforts. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kyle Mertens. Do you remember the first award you ever won? No, I don't mean the biggest award or the best award you ever won. I mean the very first award you ever won. The beginning of a long series of accomplishments that you, as a member of American society, have most likely won throughout your lifetime. Most likely, you can't. The fact is, if you're anything like me, it's hard for you to remember the second or third award you ever won, or many of the subsequent awards after that. But why is this? Many of us are wondering this question because these awards are designed to inspire us to compete and to advance our education in a variety of subjects. But the fact is, these awards are highly damaging. These awards damage the basis of competition in the United States by demotivating those who gain the most awards, removing the passion from one's competition, and angering those who do not gain their awards. In the case of those who gain the most awards, one would think that they would try the hardest. After all, they compete and they get the most awards. But the fact is, these people only try until they get to the top. These people will work and they will climb. But once they have reached the top, when they are fueled by awards, there's nowhere higher to go. When one is comparing themselves to others, it's very difficult for them to move forward and go higher when they've already reached the top. And this constitutes a system of false pride in which these individuals climb to the top, but then they fall because they see that they should have time to have a comfort zone and relax and lay upon their laurels. But the fact is, these awards cause them to fall. And this can be seen in many real-life examples, such as the case of employers who institute an Employee of the Month program. In many cases, these awards actually damage the best employees. According to Forbes, quote, employees who had previously had excellent attendance and were highly productive ended up suffering a 6 to 8% productivity decrease after the start of an Employee of the Month program, end quote. This might seem like a small margin in which these people have gone down, but one can only imagine the effects that this has overall on the economy currently. These people will work only towards getting these awards, and they will lose out on actually improving themselves. And this is true also in the fact that awards remove competition, the passion from these competition. In the case of awards, the motivation is short term. These awards are designed to inspire people to compete, but only in a short-term effect. These individuals work solely so they can inspire themselves to get recognition amongst their peers. And they work for this, but the fact is that when they do this, their passion that they may have had for the subject is replaced by callous disregard for the actual subject matter. Instead, they become fueled by these awards, working only the minimal amount in order to receive their award. They work solely towards these awards, and thus the quality of work overall decreases. And this can be seen in many cases, such as in author Alfie Kahn's article, The Risk of Rewards, where he found that, quote, in general, the more cognitive sophistication and open-ended thinking that is required for a task, the worse people tend to do when they've been led to perform this task for a reward, end quote. He later concluded in this article that rewards cause people to lose interest in whatever they're rewarded for doing. The fact is, these awards cause a massive decline in the competition overall. When awards are instituted, those who are in a workplace in which an Employee of the Month award have been installed quickly lose their quality of work. They simply will work the minimal amount to get the award. They will work all that they have to, but no more. And this causes a massive product quality decline. However, those who are demotivated by these awards are also demotivated when they lose. The fact is, not everyone can win. And this is taken as a common fact in American society. But the fact is, these awards are used in order to inspire people, but when those who are working receive no recognition for the passion and valor that they put into their work, then they will simply stop working. They will become disenfranchised and quit altogether. This has been noted in many studies, such as in Bruno S. Frey's dissertation on the economics of awards, called Giving and Receiving Rewards, in which he stated that, quote, awards not only have an incentive effect on the persons receiving them or hoping to receive them, but also have a negative external effect on the persons who are disappointed or angry because they have not received their rewards, end quote. Now, while we take it as a common fact that not everyone can win in American society, this doesn't mean that we should give up on those who lose altogether. We should try to inspire them to look inside and work on their own set of morals, not try to inspire them otherwise. And this can be seen once again in the real world. In the case of an Employee of the Month award, workers who see that others have been given awards for work that they are not truly deserving, they will quickly give up, and many will give up on gaining the award overall. They will not work for these awards. In American society, we take for granted that awards are part of our society, and we think that they have to be there. We believe that they're intrinsic, needed, important, but the fact is they're not. Be it 125th Corps of Cadets, National Honor Society, Delta Phi, these awards are nothing. Small pieces of metal, that's it. The actual thing that we really care about is the accomplishment. So let me ask you again. Do you remember the first award you ever won? No, you don't. What you remember is the actual accomplishment that you did. And it's time that we recognize that rather than simple pieces of metal. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Hector Villanueva, and I'm here to talk to you about a sport we all know and love, football. I'm not gonna talk about football in general, but mainly a certain topic within football. First of all, I want to assume something about everybody here in this gym right now. I want to assume everybody here thinks that an NFL career is a dream job. I mean, why would you not think that you start your career at 20, 21 years old, you get drafted, multi-million contract before you're even 25 years old, you retire, have a family, kids, buy a house, you have millions of dollars after retirement, you live happy ever after. But sadly, that is not the truth. That's not an NFL career. There's two major downsides of playing football. Now, my objective of this speech is not to discourage you from playing football or not participating in it, but mainly to inform you about it and make sure you take proper care of yourself while playing the sport. And those two major downsides are concussions and CTE. First of all, I want to start with CTE stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. This is a brain disease which is caused by too many hard hits on the head, aka concussions. The symptoms include memory loss, depression, and dementia. These three symptoms are very deadly combined. The list of NFL players that are diagnosed with CTE post-modern continues to grow. Concussions have caused many problems to the NFL, but they're still working to get it fixed, to make sure all the players are taking care of it. First of all, I want to start to talk about a lawsuit that happened in April 2011. This lawsuit was mainly made by 7 ex-NFL players, but mainly I want to call out 2 NFL players, Ray Easterling and Mcmahon. The lawsuit was going fine up until August 2012. The lawsuit hit a major roadblock. One of the ex-NFL former players, Ray Easterling, committed suicide, self-inflicted gunshot wound because of CTE. He couldn't handle the symptoms of it. He couldn't handle the memory loss. First of all, actually, I want to talk about an NFL player that committed suicide before this, called Dave Durson. And he once stated that it was very frustrating for him to get into his car, go to pick up his daughter to school, but he doesn't remember where the school is, or even how to remember to go back home. This was very frustrating to him. Also, he said that he had head pains, but not the normal kinds of head pains, but really hard ones that he couldn't stand. Mcmahon once stated that if he would have a gun when he had one of those head pains, he would have killed himself right there in the moment. Sadly, Dave Durson had a gun in that moment, and he committed suicide too. Self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. He had memory loss, dementia. He had periods of aggressive behavior towards his wife, which led him to a divorce, lost contact with his children, went broke, and one thing led to another. He's not with us anymore. These suicides brought a lot of attention to the topic because now the NFL players weren't talking about prosthetic legs. They were talking about how many concussions have you had over your career. Now, after this happened, the number of lawsuits against the NFL by NFL former players increased to exactly 3,400 NFL players filed a lawsuit against the NFL because the NFL wasn't taking care of the problem. They were actually hiding information about it. But luckily, in August 2013, there was a settlement with the NFL and former players. The NFL had agreed to pay $765 million to provide medical help to about approximately 18,000 former football players in the NFL. Now, and also some of that money went into the research of CTE. Now, In my opinion, is it really worth it to have an NFL career, get millions of dollars, be famous, meet stars? But what I really don't think is worth it is to risk not seeing your family grow, to risk it not watching your kids grow. Like, is it really worth it, all those millions of dollars? Or would you rather prefer to watch your kids grow and grow into the persons that you want them to become? Thank you.
It begins simply with a fist, white-knuckled and tight, glossy with sweat, with two eyes in a rear-view mirror watching for a convoy. On the radio, a soundtrack that adrenaline has pushed into silence, replacing it with a heartbeat, his thumb trembling over the button. What I just read to you is the opening stanza of 2,000 Pounds by Brian Turner, an award-winning poet and veteran of the Iraq War. 2,000 Pounds refers to the commonly used artillery round in an improvised explosive device. The poem goes on to describe in 360 degrees detail the casualties from a suicide bomb. 2,000 Pounds freezes in time the moment a suicide bomb triggers his explosives in a town square of Mosul. Turner provides a brief introduction to the different profiles and how their lives have been destroyed in just a second. The image this scene creates begs the question, is there anything honorable in suicide warfare? Honor in the battlefield is as old as conflict itself. Samurai, the greatest warriors from feudal Japan, created the way of the warrior. This was a way of living which induced values, discipline, and honor, and any form of disgrace, such as cowardness, dishonor, and defeat, reflected poorly on their lord and was reason enough for a samurai to commit seppuku, a ritualized suicide method which consisted in making a clean horizontal cut through the peritoneum and then with swords still inside the abdomen to a vertical cut through the belly button. This tradition passed from generation to generation, but we could say it got transformed with modern warfare. World War II Japanese soldiers adapted the samurai tradition of seppuku, turning their planes into self-guided missiles. The pilots would guide their plane directly into the enemy ship, much like the suicide attackers in 9/11. They used this method because it was more accurate, and for them meant more opportunity to win. The kamikaze pilots preferred to die than to be dishonored. The Japanese used this method like the samurai used the seppuku. They used it as their last resource. They used it when defeat was right in front of them. All the kamikaze pilots were volunteers. Kamikaze and samurai found honor in death, and they are often acknowledged as honorable. But when we think about modern-day bombers, for example, Islamic extremist bombers, we think about cowardly terrorists that just want to make damage. Or are they simply politically and religiously motivated fanatics? Is their purpose to kill people or to just kill themselves? According to Dr. Adam Langford, specialist in criminology, social deviance, mass murder, suicide terrorism, counterterrorism, and law enforcement, suicide is explicitly condemned in Islam and guarantees an eternity in hell. On the other hand, martyrs can go to heaven. Most of the suicide bombers before dying say Allahu Akbar, which means God is great or God is the greatest. By doing this, the suicide people are no longer going to hell for all eternity, but now they are considered martyrs and have a guaranteed place in heaven, including 72 virgins. The Quran does not say the martyrs will receive 72 virgins, but it does have a confusing placement of the words that can be misunderstood. Also, the myth has been passed in an oral tradition. According to Kevin Caruso, the president of Suicide.org and a suicide survivor, over 90% of the people that commit suicide have a mental illness at the time of their death. Almost all of the suicide bombers have different psychological problems. such as anxiety, depression, bipolarity, schizophrenia, and others. One of the other parts of suicide bombers is that they are forced to do it, especially women and even children. According to Kevin Seif, writing for the Washington Post, the number of children involved in such blast grew more than tenfold, from 4 in 2014 to 44 in 2015. According to a report released by the UN, more than 3/4 of the children are girls, some as young as 8 years old. Now this leaves us the other very small percent of people that do it to protect their traditions. This percent is almost zero. Most religions, including the major ones, such as Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, and Buddhism, strictly forbid the act of suicide. There is no way to turn around the situation, except for Muslims. Muslims can become martyrs by doing jihad. Most of the times, the actual reasons of their suicide is because they have a mental problem, or because they are being forced to do it. But they claim, or terrorists claim, that they committed suicide to protect their religion. The people that do it at the moment of their death, they consider themselves martyrs, so they can go to heaven. Terrorists also glorify the people that commit suicide to encourage others to do it. They're encouraged to have no fear for eternal punishment, for their actions will be rewarded in heaven. So is there anything honorable in suicide warfare? The answer, as is often the case, is complicated. It depends on the situation and the reasons behind it. Samurai created their own method of upholding their honor. Japanese soldiers of World War II also created their own method to don't have to face dishonor. Muslims that do it to protect their traditions because they are, or they believe they are at war, I would say they are also honorable because they are being threatened and they're protecting what they believe. The people that are forced to do it, like women and children, I think they're not honorable. But I also believe that they do not deserve to be hated and condemned. But the Muslims that do it because they have a mental problem, I don't believe they have honor at all. But I also believe it's not their fault that they do it in the way to hurt more people. Because for them, it's a decision between heaven or hell. To conclude, I would like to return to Brian Sterner's poem. The man who triggered the button, who may have invoked the prophet's name or not, he is obliterated at the epicenter. He is everywhere. He is of all things. His touch is in the air taken in, the blast and wave, the electricity of shock. He is in the sound the heart makes quick in the panic's rush, the search of blood, searching for light and color, the sound the martyr cries, filled with words his soul is made of. Inshallah. Thank you.
Another round of applause for these young men and the speeches they gave. We will now have about a 10-minute break while the judges deliberate on the speeches, and we will listen once again to MMA's big band under the direction of Warrant Officer McGrath. Thank you. Okay, so the judges have deliberated, and we have some wonderful choices, some wonderful awardees. Before we begin, I want to thank a variety of constituencies here at the Academy. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Morton, the Director of Maintenance, and his maintenance crew for setting all of this up. Let's thank him, please. I would also like to thank Mr. Mike Koulas, who is up in the sound booth with lighting and sound. Let's thank him, please. I want to thank the mentors and the Commandant staff for working with the cadets during the evenings, especially tonight. Let's thank them also, please. I want to thank our English department who oversaw and spearheaded this activity, this educational activity for our cadets. Our English department now, English teachers, Mr. Mike Harding, Mr. Rob Olive, Ms. Megan Kuklowski, and Mr. Lewis Bell. Let's thank them also for their good work. And really all of our teaching faculty from administration on down to promote these kinds of things for our boys, and also for all the cadets and these boys up here who have done such hard work. Let's thank all of them too, please. I would now like to call up Mr. Lou Leonati, who will present the Joy McGeorge Award in the middle school.
Well, what I would really like to do is ask for Joy McGeorge to come up so that we could ask her to present the award. The winner of the Joy McGeorge Award is Nehemiah Simmons.
Thank you for a wonderful evening. Thank you to the cadets who spoke tonight. And it's my distinct honor to announce the winner of the Winston Churchill Memorial Award. That goes to Kenneth Kyle Mertens.
While I'm very pleased to have received this award, I'd like to formally refuse it due to the fact that I feel it would be hypocritical to my speech. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Now to present the Wallace Fry Cup. My connection with the cup has been long, and when I walk into my office every morning in our conference room, Mr. Fry's picture is on the wall along with the other partners in our law firm. It's a great award to receive. It is not something that we give lightly. We talk about it, we discuss it, we talk about delivery, we talk about content, we talk about how you connect with your topic with the audience. We're very pleased to present the Fry Cup to Francesco Fletes.
Congratulations to all the awardees. Thank you all for a wonderful evening. Thank you, cadets, for the great enthusiasm you showed for tonight, supporting your cadets up here on this stage. I'm sure they appreciated it. Parents, please enjoy a wonderful rest of the evening. Drive safely. Tomorrow begins at 9 a.m. with company competitive drill up on the upper field. Thank you all and have a good evening. Thank you.